Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Saturday Sports Countdown, presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We're glad that you joined us here this morning, and we got a lot to talk about as we are less than a month now away from high school and college football, which I think when you feel the heat outside, you're like, dang, man, how are you close to anything outside playing in this heat? But we are finally in the month of high school and college football, only really about 20 days away from high school football. The first game on the 22nd for a lot of people. And so looking forward to that. And we'll kind of dive into that. Had media days this past week over in Opelika, so I can kind of give an update to everybody on that. Talked to a lot of coaches and a lot of players. Been at Auburn practice a couple of times this past week, and I'll give an update on that. Luke, I know you'll be able to give an update on what Alabama's doing as they head toward their first game as well. So just a lot going on. Good to see both of you this morning. And again, people can comment away throughout the program. We'd love to have you. As of right now, I'm not sure that we are on TV. So if we're not, then we won't be taking breaks like we normally do. So we'll just kind of monitor that as we roll. We just kind of learned to do that 20 something years ago. Just do whatever you got to do, man. So good to see both of you.
Well, roll with the punches, Brett. Glad to be seen. Glad to see Luke Robinson on a Saturday. I think last Saturday we gave zero Alabama talk, Luke. And I think that's the MO moving forward. If Luke's not on the show, because Luke, you've got to give me credit. Over the last 20 plus years, if you weren't on the show, I kind of took the Alabama side because you were going to get no conversations from Brett.
And we don't want you.
He didn't care whether but now that Luke is back from time to time on Saturday, I'm going to let him do that. But glad to be here, Brett. You did have a busy week over in Opelika, and how many schools were involved in? And thanks to 97.7 and the Kicker Group, Van Riggs, D. Mark Mitchell, all of those great guys over in Opelika for inviting us over to provide some coverage to that event. But Brett, how many schools was over?
Yeah, I was about to pull up the list here and look at it. I mean, I'll just kind of run
15
down.
to 20?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, on day one, we had Valley, Horseshoe Bend, Russell County, Lee Scott, Lochapoka, Reeltown, Lafayette, Beulah, Elmore County, Hanley, Glenwood, and Auburn had a couple of AISA schools in there as well, some 8-man teams. And then the same amount on day two had Benjamin Russell, Opelika, Booker T. Washington, Lynette, Beauregard, Dayville, Tallahassee, Chambers Academy, just a big group. So, yeah, probably upwards of 20 plus schools that came through in a 2-day period. And we were able to talk to most of the coaches and most of the, the guys. We picked one player. Auburn brought 20 players. I asked Keith Etheridge, I said, y'all about to scrimmage? I mean, he laughed. He said, well, we got like a team leadership thing going on. I said, well, we were just wondering when you rolled in. I said, you had a 2 deep right here at media days. I just didn't. So, but yeah, most people brought 2 players or 3. And so we were able to talk to one of those. And Randy, as you said earlier in the week, you'll be pushing that out, as we move forward. And, you'll see a lot of those interviews with coaches and players over the next few weeks on our AHSA radio network platforms.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of them. And Luke, I guess the biggest news high school wise for you as an Alabama fan was Tank Jones this week committing. You and I talked about it a little bit before we go on air. Just give everybody a thought. Did you feel like, Alabama had the best chance there and just couldn't close the deal? Oregon had some money maybe at the end to pop open that they could throw and kind of sweeten that kitty a little bit. So talk about that.
Yeah, I do think Alabama at one time certainly held a lead. I mean, he went on and on. Alabama's his dream school, always wanted to play there. That's the dreaded conversation you get from a recruit right before they go somewhere else, it seems like. But he did grow up an Alabama fan, always wanted to go there. But now the last week, it was really funny. Alabama felt very confident. They didn't know because he hadn't told them. And then Texas A&M, the Texas A&M moderator said, I'm this close to putting in a crystal ball for Tank Jones to come to A&M. And the Oregon moderator already put one in for Oregon. So what Alabama fans started thinking, I think the ones that could put two and two together. Like, A&M and Oregon are like pooling their resources in a sense, or their respective resources to try and make a bigger offer. Now, my guess is Oregon's ended up being a good bit bigger than everybody else's, and Alabama finished second. That's my guess. But hey, sometimes that's the way it is. And I'll tell you something. I respect the kid for keeping it quiet. It's been so long since somebody's had an announcement where I truly didn't know where they were going. Like even somebody like Sadarian Morgan, I know you two may have held out some hope. I'm telling you, I felt 100% he was coming to Alabama just from talking to some folks. And and part of me was like, I kind of miss the days where somebody has an announcement, I'm on the edge of my seat. The last time a commit really, truly surprised me was maybe Rashaan Evans. I mean, and that's been a long time. And so I feel like it's good to have a kid that was able to keep things quiet. None of the staffs knew. I believe that 100%, that none of the staffs knew. And
out of all the kids that we visited over the last 2 or 3 months, he probably showed zero signs. If anything, we walked out of there thinking probably Texas A&M was the school that really was his top school. So you're right. I mean, just to kind of go off what you said, there was a lot of ambiguity there, and so many people are involved in all this recruiting. Going in who it is pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and again, it just makes recruiting kind of fun again, because there's going to be some announcements here in the next few days, but if one player is getting 32 crystal balls within 24 hours of his commitment, where he's going, and it sort of takes away from the kid's moment to me. And I mean, I don't care where he commits. I'm just saying it's sort of like, okay. Well, I mean, I guess I got to go through the charade of watching it and being entertained by it. But really, like Tank Jones was, oh my God, where's this cat going to go? Nobody knew. And even when during his announcement, he goes, I'm going to spend the next 4 years and he like reached in the bag and he hesitated for a minute. I'm not saying he was hesitating because he was thinking about where he's I don't know why he hesitated, but it's left open to interpretation. It's pretty cool. It's like the ending of Sopranos. It just cuts to black and everybody goes, well, did he die? Did he not die? I don't know. It kind of makes it fun.
Brett, that's 2 years in a row. Oregon able to come into the state of Alabama, and depending on which service you're looking for, at least one of the top 3 players in pretty much every listing. Naeem Alford last year, and then Tank Jones this year. That's good pickups for Oregon. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I just think that, out there, your borders aren't secure. And I think when you look at a state like Alabama, we don't have as many players as a Georgia, a Texas, a Florida, but we've got really high-end players. And so everybody wants those players. So it's not a guarantee that Alabama get 5, Auburn get 5. If you go in and get 3 or 4, you're doing great, and Alabama's on pace to do that. Auburn last year got 7 or 8, depending on which recruiting service you're looking at. Look, Auburn's got 2 right now, and Jaquez Wilkes and Hezekiah Harris, and, may have a chance to get one more, down the line. But, that's just where we are. You got guys that, are looking at Clemson and Georgia and Texas A&M and Oregon. And so, again, and it comes down to money for a lot of these guys. I had Coach Tuberville, actually, I want to kind of do a little promo at 10 o'clock on all of these outlets. Faith and I had a podcast with Coach Tuberville yesterday, and he talks about this NIL thing, and he talks about the state of college football, and he talks about Title IX, Randy, because he's a big proponent of that. It's actually got a bill, in Congress trying to get some things changed with Title IX and transgender and all. We can go into that a little bit later on, but he was just talking about, he said, look, man, he said, I think this thing has made some coaches lazy in recruiting because now you got this money and you ain't got to go out there and fight as hard as you used to. If you got the best offer, most of the time you're going to get the player. And he said, it's about managing your money and your budget and all this kind of stuff. And he said, look, you can just say whatever you want to say about it. The day and age is different. And that's the truth. I mean, I think what Luke said about Tank Jones probably rendered true. I mean, who came in with the biggest offer at the end of the day ended up getting his commitment. So that's what we have to deal with. So your borders aren't secure anymore. Anybody can come from anywhere with a better offer than you if you don't match them, and they can steal a player out of your state.
Let me ask, because I get asked this a lot. What do you feel like these offers look like? Like, I know they're not contractual, but I do get asked, what do you think X player that just signed with Alabama that's a 5-star athlete, what do you think that offer looks like? Luckily, the Texas Tech offer to the offensive lineman popped out on Twitter, about a month ago, that we saw on a Saturday, and you saw the number, and I'm not saying that number's valid, but at least it gave us some groundwork on exactly what these programs are thinking on a multi-year deal that some of these guys are getting. Have you heard? Do you know what some of these offers look like?
I mean, I hear, but they're all different. And even that one that you're talking about, I think his name is Felix Ojo or something, OJO. And he's a 5-star offensive lineman, big deal. They beat out Texas and a lot of other guys for him. And it came out that he was getting, I think, $5 million. And well, the school later came out, not somebody, I don't know if somebody was with the school or a rep of the school, but they came out later and said, look, it's not really $5 million. It can be up to $5 million if this, and this happen. And my first thing was, I don't believe any of those numbers, because if he's as good as you think he's going to be, it's going to be more than $5 million. I mean, because he's a left tackle, and that's going to be more than worth $5 million. And if they don't pay it, somebody else will. And I don't know that every kid goes to a school. Like I really believe that if it were close, Tank Jones probably would have taken a bit of a cut to go to Alabama. You stay closer to home, stay closer to the school you always pulled for. But if it's not close, I mean, I think we all have a price. What's the old joke that the guy says, hey, would you sleep with me for $1? The woman says, no way. He goes, would you sleep with me for $1 million? She goes, yeah. He goes, and she said, no, I'm sorry. That goes the other way. Would you sleep with me for $1 million? He said, yeah. Would you sleep with me for $1? She said, no. She said, what do you think I am, a prostitute? He said, we've already been determined you can be bought. We're just negotiating now, and that's sort of the same thing with these players that, if you are an Alabama fan, you might not be a $500,000 Alabama fan. You may be a $100,000 Alabama fan. But let me tell you something. If Oregon came around Luke Robinson's house toting a sack full and they got up to some of these numbers I've heard, then yeah, guess what? I'm going to be having a big O. I'm going to be quacking up and down Sterlingwood Drive. I'm going to be doing all that stuff.
Coach Tuberville added something to it yesterday, and you can see it today, that he said, Ohio State spent $25 million on their football team last year. He said they should have won the national championship. He said it's rumored that Texas has spent $40 million. He said they ought to fire the whole damn lot of them if they don't win a national championship this year. He said because you suck. If you can't take $40 million and win a national, he said so. Yeah, there's pressure. He said, and I'm not kidding. He said they ought to fire the whole damn group of them. He said if you go spend $40 million, you got the best quarterback in the country and all this, and you can't win a national title. He said that's the way it is.
That would work. And when you say Ohio State spent $25 million, I agree. The problem is there are other people that also spent 20-something.
No, he made that point. He said he was talking about Auburn, and he's talking about Hugh Freeze. He said, look, Coach Freeze is a good coach. He said, and he had a mess that he inherited, and he said he's built the roster up. But he said, but guess what everybody else is doing? They're going out there and building their rosters up too. He said it's not just that Auburn's out there getting players and getting back to where they need to be. He said everybody else is doing the same thing. The top 40 teams that are trying to compete. So you're right. I mean, he said it tongue in cheek, but he does make a point. I mean, if
Luke, I think that's pretty much exactly what Nick Saban says. The reason that he got out of there, it was that if you can go buy a championship, he didn't want to be part of that. And I think he used the Ohio State example you just used, Brett, is the one that I've heard Saban use over and over again, how much money they spent last year. And look, that's the rules now. Like, you can either get upset with being a Yankees fan. I promise you, Yankees fans don't care that they spend 5 times more than Marlins fans. They care less. They just want a good product out there on the field.
But the problem with that, the problem with that is the Yankees are a professional program, And
Sure,
college,
I understand, but
I
that's
know.
the rules they're playing under now.
Well, I know, but that's why everybody's complaining. And that's why we are in the position we're in right now, is that we don't have a college program
open.
anymore.
No, that's
We don't
open.
have, but you know, Coach Turville also mentioned about Olympic sports, Randy, and I thought you'd take very much interest in this comment. He said, we host the Olympics in a couple of years. And he told President Trump, he said, if we don't get some things turned around, we're going to lose our Olympic sports at our colleges. He said, we don't have training academies in our country like these other communist countries have. He said, our Olympic sports are trained in our colleges. He said, we're going to look bad in a couple of years. He said, we're going to get our butts handed to us, and it ain't going to be pretty, because he said, we're probably going to lose Olympic sports here in the next 2 years if something doesn't change. So, yes, I hear you on the professional analogy and all, but it is a real problem that we have somehow gotten away and allowed basically the kids to have all control. I know we were talking about coaches and administrations and all that having the control for so long, but now the players have all the control, especially in football. They dictate what they get and how, when they, and if they don't like it, they leave and all this kind of stuff. And it's created the mess that we've had.
Let me ask this. Like, Luke, what do you suspect the difference in pay this year for Texas and Ohio State compared to Alabama and Auburn?
I mean, if again, I don't know what Texas
is. You're guessing, but
let's pretend like
from Luke's standpoint.
Let's pretend like Texas is $40 million. I mean, I don't think that's crazy. I mean, if you told me Alabama's was 25 to 28, I'd believe it. I mean, I believe it. I don't know that that's what it is. I do know that Alabama's philosophy is a little different especially in terms of recruiting. That they want to not necessarily pay everybody the exact same. You can't do that. You won't be able to sign really good players, but they don't want to overspend for one person. Like, they don't want to do what Texas Tech did. Texas Tech put a lot of money in one kid's pocket, and maybe they'll do it for 2 or 3 other kids. And then they'll just surround them with some pretty good pieces. They think, 3-star, low 3-star kind of guys. And I don't think Alabama wants to do that. And it's just a philosophy. I mean, some people may like it if you have $20 million, let's say, and you want to spread it out. Well, you could go, it's like, you ever see those things where they say, build your perfect Alabama or Auburn team? And they say, Cam Newton's, and you have $10, Cam Newton's $5, Bo Jackson's $5, and you go down to get to, somebody's $1, Peyton Thorne's $1, and you got $10 to build it. Now, do you want to spend it all on Cam Newton, or do you want to spend it, a little more equitably? And I think that's just the philosophy. But my guess is Alabama's would be roughly 2/3 or maybe 3/4 of what Texas is. And again, I'm spitballing here.
I guess my point is, if that's the case for multiple years with an entire football team's worth of roster, including the transfer portal, I mean, how much can you expect Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze to compete on a national championship level with teams that stockpile 3 or 4 years worth of spending? I mean, if that's the real number, Luke, over a 3 to 4 year period, they're going to spend $50 million more dollars than Alabama is on players. And like, I'm all about trying to figure out how you.
And who's going to police it? And because obviously we've all talked about this August 1 date that has come and gone. You're supposed to be seeing all these.
Y'all flipped everybody, didn't you?
Everybody, you didn't see all that yesterday.
I was asleep.
Obviously, the on paper deals, you're supposed to be able to see what that is. But just in this last week, guys, the CSC has changed their stance 3 times. 3 times on collectives, they've changed it. Can't nobody make a damn decision, man. It's like wake up one morning, it's this way. Wake up the next morning, oh, we kind of relaxed that. We're all good. I mean, no, who's going to police all this stuff?
That's a good point you brought up. All right, so I think you were off air, so I won't say which school. If you want to say which school, fine. But a school that came to the AHSA Media Days thing with you guys the other day, they brought 35 kids or something like that. And you were like, what's
22.
Wow, what's this all about? And They were like, we're having sort of a, everybody's a leader type thing or whatever, group leadership and my first thought was, if you've got 35 leaders, you got no leaders. Because leader by definition is somebody who stands out above the rest, commands the respect. I just don't like that. It's sort of like that with the NCAA thing right now. They are letting everybody else dictate and public pressure dictate the rules they create almost immediately. Now, you might have a bad rule and you want to fix it, but even when we have a bad rule in college football or in the NFL, remember when the NFL used to review pass interference calls, and everybody was like, yeah, we got to do that. This is so terrible, because it all started with like a Rams Saints game or something like that. And the next year we did it. And it was such a terrible idea, but they let it go out through the whole year because they were like, we have this rule. Let's just do it for 1 year and see what happens. And they let it play out for years, and they realized this is the dumbest thing we've ever done. And so sometimes when people lose their minds and clamor for things for an immediate change, it's not great to respond to that. Sometimes it's great to go, wait, let's think about this. Because if we review every pass interference call, I mean, you could literally do it on every pass play. And the game's going to take 9.5 hours. We just don't have that kind of time. We're trying to do this as best we can. And I do the same thing with review all the time about any review. I'm fine not having a review anymore because they've screwed it up so bad. Because we don't know what a catch is. We don't know what a fumble is. But my point is that, so if you have a bunch of people from the outside telling you how to, hey, you need to have this happen, you need to have that, and every time somebody complains, you go, yeah, that's right. Oh, that's a good idea too. Have a rule for a year, and if it sucks, we'll all say it sucks, and then we'll get rid of it. But let's at least implement one rule and say, this is what we're going to do. And if we want to change it, we'll change it after a year.
Y'all remember the dumbest rule ever is when they brought in targeting the first year. And if they went back and they saw that it wasn't targeting, they still enforced the 15
You still got the 15
penalty.
yards.
I went, but hold on a minute. All right, okay, you went to a bank robbery and you didn't rob the bank. And they went and looked at the camera and they go, well, you actually didn't do it, but we arrested you to begin with, so we're going to go ahead and take you to jail. I mean, it's like
got 15 years in.
Some of the dumbest things on the earth, on planet that you think are just obvious that we can find a way to screw up. But I also think on the NIL side of things, it's been abused since day one. Y'all both know that. And Coach Tuberville also talked about that. He said, look, we're giving people, he said, you're courting these 5-star guys now, and you're paying them all this money out of the gate. Rain, this goes to the portal conversation that you and I have had 100 times. You're taking a chance on spending a lot of money on a guy coming out of high school, that hasn't proven anything. He's like, name, image, and likeness. He's like, based off what? And I saw Shaquille O'Neal say that on a podcast the other day, and they asked him, hey, if the LSU basketball program came to you and said, hey, will you write a check for this amount of money because we can go out and get everybody we feel like we can compete for a national championship. And this is his exact words. He said, hell no, I ain't writing a check for them bums. He goes, they ain't proved anything. He said, I'm not writing a check for a bunch of guys that ain't ever done anything. He said, go prove yourself. And he said, and then go sign a contract. He said, that's called professional sports. He said, so LSU best not call him. He said, he ain't writing no check to him.
Well, it sounds like the same comment that Charles Barkley had with Auburn. And Charles is probably given more money that's not some massive business owner than anybody in Auburn history. And he said, don't give my money to that. You can put it into buildings, you can put it into whatever you want to put it into, but don't put it into going and buying a kid, and then 6 months later he's transferred over to Alabama and
that's
playing at the Nemesis. So yeah, it's
who likes this system? Seriously,
nobody.
Who likes this?
Nope. The ones that have the deepest pockets can now maybe become competitive. That's the only ones I'll say. If you've got Texas Tech oil money, maybe you can come legitimate at some point. Ohio State, they're going to always have enough money to compete, whether they want to spend more than everybody else or a little less like Alabama is. Alabama's going to always have enough money if they have the right leader to compete. Texas, but I think the amount of teams that are going to really be able to do that is getting fewer and fewer. I think at one point maybe you could have made an argument that 15 teams can legitimately win a national championship 10 years ago. Well, I think that's down to What do y'all think?
Well-
To this year, starting the year,
Well, it's
how many
funny.
teams you
it's funny you
really
say
think
that.
could step up and win a national championship?
It's funny you say that because national radio, the people that love all this expansion, they have said, I think we've got more parity than ever.
Gee,
I'm like, no,
I disagree.
just because Indiana played nobody and got in the college football playoff doesn't mean you have parity. And they'll say, well, yeah, at least they had a chance. And I go, yeah, but as soon as they got their chance, they got their face mask blown off their helmet. They were terrible. And you know what? And what we've done is encourage them to schedule nobody. They canceled a home and home with Virginia, not with Ohio State or Ohio State in their conference, not with LSU.
If they could cancel it with Ohio State, they would.
They called Virginia and said, we got to get out by. That's how scared Indiana was of playing a team that has a name we know, not Old Dominion or New Dominion or Old Mexico.
Don't sleep on Old Dominion. Didn't they beat somebody pretty good last year? I don't think they.
God dang, don't tell Indiana they'll get out of the game with
them. All right, so I thought this was interesting, and I did it on the podcast this past week. The blue chip ratio basically is what it does is it looks at your roster, and if you got more than 50% of your total roster that was a 4 or 5 star player, every single year since they've been keeping up with recruiting, like the star rankings, the national champion has come from this list. Now, if you're on the list, doesn't mean you're going to win a national championship, doesn't mean you're going to have a good year. But if you're on this list, gives you that shot based off history. There's 17 teams on that list this year. Okay. 17. And again,
and the bottom 7 better have an amazing quarterback.
Out of that list, yeah. So, like, let me tell you the SEC schools, guys, that are on this list: Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and I think that's it. And then the rest of them are Clemson, Southern Cal, Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State. I left off LSU for SEC. So there's your whole list. And so based on history, the national champion is going to come from one of those 17 teams right there. And again, just because you're on the list doesn't even mean you're going to have a good year. But the blue chip ratio of 50% or higher says that one of those teams is going to win the national championship.
All that's true. And again, one of these national guys that just loves all this parity, and for some reason they want to see SMU and Indiana for a national championship, which I can't imagine anything more nightmarish for the entire country than that. But if what they say is, okay, there's 17 people on this list, doesn't that mean how much more parity we have? And I say, well, most of them are from the SEC, and then the ones that aren't from the SEC are probably from the Big Ten, and then you got Notre Dame, and then you got Clemson. And so it's really the same bunch of folks. And by the way, like the Texas, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia crowd, a lot of them all play each other. So they're going to sort of knock each other off. And so, yeah, it's not as much parity as you think. And if you want to say, well, okay, you don't have to be on that list. See, Indiana and SMU weren't on that list, and they made it. And I said, yes, because they played Piedmont, they played Altamont, they played a lot of Monts, and they didn't play anybody in college. They just don't. And when they do, SMU played Clemson. All you got to do is beat a Clemson team that South Carolina just beat. No big deal. And they go in there and choke. Then all Indiana has to do is they play one team all year. And that was Ohio State. Just don't go in there and stink. What do? They stunk. And then they played another team, the second best. They played 2 ranked teams. The bell rung both times.
Now, I look on this list, and the easiest path to win a national championship for any of these teams is Notre Dame. I mean, when you look at it from a standpoint, they just make the playoffs. They don't really. I mean, they've got some tough teams on their schedule. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they could pave their way in this current setup. They could get out of the rivalry with Southern Cal. They could go away from some of this other stuff, and they can say, look, we're going try to get the easiest schedule we possibly can. The rest of us don't get a chance to do that. The majority of this list, the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Auburns, the Floridas, the Georgias, the Texases, we don't get a chance. We play a schedule, then you get Indiana's coach, Cignetti, coming out, like, so, well, we'll just go ahead and shape our schedule like the SEC, and, we'll play a weaker schedule. And I'm like, man, you're not even in the same atmosphere with the rest of us out here. So
the rest of us, let's just talk about Auburn. Why we need to go on the road and play Baylor to start the year, knowing that we've got Alabama and Georgia down the list?
You have to. You have to. You have to play one Power 5, one Power 4 conference team. SEC.
It would be one of the worst ones I can find. Would be my choice every year, Luke.
Well, God dang, you can't get a whole. Baylor ain't exactly.
Well, they won 8 games last year.
They're okay.
I can find a team that won 3.
Well, this year they are favored by some to win the Big 12 because they got Sawyer Robertson and probably the best 2 running backs in the whole league back.
Luke, I promise you, I don't feel good about it. With our 4 years in a row losing seasons going on the road with
I agree with you there.
Really?
I see what you're saying, but that's a very I don't know. I appreciate at least Auburn's trying to play better. Frankly, I wish Auburn would try and play up a little bit because Baylor is just not.
That's exactly. You would love for us to go on the road and play damn Oregon the first game.
Well, no, you don't have to play Oregon. You don't have to play Oregon.
We actually beat them a few years ago. First game of the year.
You don't have to play at Oregon, but playing at Baylor. I'm tired of the hey, God dang, we have done stepped it up to play Baylor. That's like saying, many moons ago, I tried to use an argument like Alabama was playing Houston. I was like, we're stepping up our schedule. Somebody said, you're out of your dang mind. And now that I think back, I was out of my mind. Baylor hadn't even sniffed much of anything since Art Briles. So Auburn should win that game. That's a game Auburn should win. And frankly, I think Auburn should go in there. I don't care what if you favored, Auburn should go in there and win that game. They're a better program, period. End of discussion.
I think mentality-wise for Auburn, they got to get back to saying that. They got to go out there.
If you want to be good.
Look, we can't run from a team like this. And, yes, they've got a good football team this year, but so do we. And, we got a better roster top to bottom. And so we got to go in there and we got to coach it that way and we got to play it that way. And so, look, Baylor's got a lot of unknowns. I went down their roster yesterday, and they have about 5 transfers on defense that they came in to try to help this defense that was terrible last year. On the offensive side, they got 1 transfer that's going to potentially start, and that's Kobe Prentice from Alabama. And the rest of them have been there. And now when I look down that roster, they've been there for 3-4 years. And so offensively, that wasn't their problem last year. They scored a lot of points, but they gave up a boatload, and that's why they lost the games that they lost. Even the ones that they won, they gave up sometimes upwards of 30-something points. They were just able to outscore their opponent. So I see both of y'all's points. Auburn coming off 4 straight years of losing, you shaky going out anywhere. Hell, you shaky going to the Sportplex, to play whoever. But you got to get over it at some point in time, and the way to do it is go on the road and beat a formidable opponent and go say, okay, we're back. We're going to contend for something this year.
And I get Randy's point. I really do, because you're desperate for some wins and go to a bowl and all that. I understand. But, I'm also the whole Hugh Freeze inherited such a mess thing. Well, Hugh Freeze or whoever was coaching.
Well, he did that.
Okay, hang on. Let me just finish my point. It was a mess, but now you can fix the messes pretty quickly. And he chose Peyton Thorne. It wasn't like Peyton Thorne was thrust upon him. He chose that guy. Now, he should get blamed for that. And the other thing is, he should get blamed for, hey, Jarquez Hunter's running him pretty good. He said, they'll never see it coming. Let's just throw it deep a few times. Again, he inherited a mess thing can be true. It can also be true that Auburn has no business losing to Missouri and to Vanderbilt and having all these other close. Everybody loves to talk about the close ones he almost won against the big teams. Let's talk about the ones he lost to teams he shouldn't have lost to Cal, to Arkansas. Give me a break. I'm so tired of he needed 3 years. You can fix it almost immediately. And when you fix it with the wrong quarterback and you stick with the wrong quarterback like he did, that's also on him.
If you watched any of our stuff, you just repeated what I've been saying for a year now.
I wasn't necessarily directing at you. I'm just saying that has become the
Nobody's giving Hugh Freeze a pass. Nobody is. The coaching was as much to blame last year as the play on the field. I mean, we screwed up 4 games. And look, the Oklahoma game is a prime example. You're up 21-10. You just ran the ball down the field, and you're about to get in the red zone. You threw it 3 times. You stopped the clock. Then you miss a field goal. Then they throw a bomb, and now it's a whole different game. That's how fast it can change. That was coaching. That was decisions by the coach. Say, we need to go down here, play a little conservative, run some more clock, kick this damn field goal, and go up by 2 touchdowns and make them drive the field, which they had not been able to do the entire game. Instead, you gave them a shot in the arm. I totally agree with everything you said. Nobody's giving Hugh Freeze a pass. And Auburn screwed up those games, but he did inherit a mess. But those excuses are over now. He has a roster that should win football games this year. And somebody asked me yesterday on the podcast, they said, I don't see 8 wins for Auburn. I said, well, if you don't see 8 wins on this schedule for Auburn, he won't be around anymore, because literally this schedule sets up. I mean, there's 4 teams on this schedule that you would say A&M and Oklahoma on the road, and then, of course, Alabama and Georgia at home. Those are your 4 toughest games. Outside of that, you should be favored or as good as everybody else you're playing, and the schedule should be very favorable. There's 8 wins there. And if you go and you win just one of those other ones, you're 9-3. So you can't screw up against a team you're not supposed to screw up against. I know that's playing perfect scenario, but it's laid out for you to win 8 games. You can't win 8 games on this schedule with this roster. I don't know what else to say anymore.
I feel like we said that last year. Every year I come into this, I feel like I said that last year. I mean, it's Brett Pritchard and the Show Me State. I'm with you, and I think a lot of Auburn fans are. I mean, I'm
just got to do it now. I mean,
I can almost, if that 45-second clip right there, if I just spliced it out, I promise you said the same thing last year, because it did look like there was 8 wins on that schedule, especially the first 5 that Auburn started with.
Should have been.
You saw the way they started. So I'm with you, Luke. We'll stick with Auburn just a second, then we'll roll over to Alabama. I mean, you as an Alabama fan, your feel and watching national pundits talk, because I always like to kind of listen to that to know what people outside of the state of Alabama that's not keeping up with this every day like we do. Your thoughts on the Auburn program right now, just overall?
I think people are Auburn's really sort of a lazy pick for a lot of people right now in terms of, let's just put them at 11 because they hadn't done anything for a while. Now, I may be looking at it with tinted glasses too, because I'm here and I do see that there's roster improvement. I do see that this schedule is easier than a lot of other schedules that Auburn's had. And so I see there's possibilities there. Now, but I think that from a national perspective, it's easy to just say, Auburn's about the 10th, 11th best team in the SEC, and that's where I'm going to put them, and not really put a lot of effort into it, because I love to look at the schedules. If you have a decent schedule, I mean, you can make some noise if you've got enough talent, and I think Auburn does, and I think that this schedule is pretty doable. I mean, again, even Alabama at the end, they always play Alabama really hard in Jordan-Hare. Georgia's going to be tough right after Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I mean, and those two could very well be losses. It wouldn't shock me if Auburn lost both those games, and then it wouldn't shock me if Auburn lost to Georgia. But after that, Auburn can go on a run. You've got Missouri at home. You got Kentucky at home. You're at Vandy. You got Mercer, I think, in there. I mean, you got a bunch of games that you should win. Now, that's the thing, is everybody loves to talk about the ones he almost won against the big boys. They need to worry more about the ones he lost to the guys that are much worse than Auburn, and especially at home. I know they go to Arkansas, but I'm not really thinking Arkansas is going to be any better. I think Arkansas is what they are. I mean, now that's one I might be being lazy on, because they got Taylon Green. He's pretty good. But other than that, I just don't know that they have a lot of ways to attack you. So I think 8-4 is a good number for Auburn. If they get it, I think that buys them some more time. I'm with Brett. If they were to go 7-5 this year, I think you're rolling up on a Mike Shula situation in that, when are we going to get better? Because I'll tell you something else. Nobody's even talked about this because it's not out. Auburn's schedule next year is going to be, I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be easy, because you're going to go to Bama, to Georgia right off the bat. You're probably going to have Texas, because you hadn't played Texas yet. Probably going to have somebody like an LSU, a Tennessee, a Florida, an Ole Miss, at least two of those four. So all of a sudden, I'm like, well, if you don't do it this year, are you confident you'll do it next year? Because I feel quite certain Alabama and Auburn will have Texas on their schedule next year, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Auburn, Georgia, or Auburn, Bama, and those are both road games for Auburn next year. And Ole Miss didn't go anywhere; they just win 10 games every year. They're recruiting gangbusters right now. They're going to be pretty good again next year. So if Auburn doesn't do something, make some noise this year, it wouldn't. If I were an Auburn fan, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to make a change.
Brett, talk about what you saw at practice this week. I know you've been there a couple of times, and maybe any differences, any concerns with some of the new players that you see out there that are going to be needed. And I'll start with one position. Maybe if you'll just expand on this, but the running back position's a question mark to me. Probably one of the biggest question marks.
First place I went when we watched practice. Look, I don't know what I had shaped in my head about Darrell Robinson. I guess I had a shorter, more stocky guy that was more of a power guy. That's not it. He's a longer, lengthy, tall guy that, to me, I thought when he showcased a lot of speed. He broke a run early in practice, and Jason Caldwell looked at me saying, "Is that Darrell right there?" I said, "Yeah," because he was supposed to be limited, and I said, "Yeah, that's Darrell Robinson," and he said, "Man, he looks." He said, obviously, he's not limited like they told us, but I was very surprised at how good Darrell Robinson looked. He didn't go through spring because he had a little bit of an injury and he's coming off, but, man, he looks the part. Strong, physical, has got some size to him, but can make the cuts and the things he needs to do. Damari Alston looks like a different human being. He's probably put on 8 to 10 pounds of nothing but solid muscle. That guy is a rock. And, he's very confident. He came out and he said, "Look," he said, "I know we lost the best running back in the league last year, and we're going to prove that there's not going to be a drop off between the ones of us back here." And he said, I take that on personally to show everybody." And then Jeremiah Cobb was limited with a finger injury, but he looks different too. So we just don't know yet because these guys haven't had the carries that you need in a game to really see, can they carry it 25 times, or are they going to have to split, whatever it is. But that's a question mark because of the lack of experience. But I think the players they have in that room, and Omar Matson got some even reps coming out with the ones and the twos, and he looks really, really good. So I'm impressed with that. I would be disappointed if we don't get production out of our running back room.
How about the rest of the team? Just thoughts overall.
Offensive line just looks totally different. When you look at this group, they look like a SEC, NFL offensive line. And when you say that, you kind of say it tongue in cheek because to compete at the highest level in this league, you got to have a bunch of NFL guys up top. And, Auburn's got 6 projected NFL draft picks in that line, including Tutal, who right now is not projected to start because of Mason Murphy. So this is the first time we've been able to say this collectively as a whole for Auburn, probably since 2017. And I'm not sure we even had as deep of a line in 2017 as we got with this group here. Connor Lew is a true leader up front as a center. If Xavier Chaplin lives up to the hype that everybody has around him, and like Jason said, last year he nursed some injuries. Year before, he was a third-team all-conference player, as a younger kid. So there's a lot of expectations with him, but he looks the part, man. He's massive. He is just a massive human being. So really like the way our offensive line looks. And then another position I'll talk about is our linebackers. When you look at, at Joe Phillips and you look at Elijah Melendez, who's just come in, that's brand new. You look at, J.J. Falk, who, nobody was expecting him to come in, right out of the gate. But, dude, he has transformed. He looks the part. Again, some young guys, but then you add DeMarcus Riddick and a Robert Woodyard in there. This linebacker core isn't as bad as you think it is. Now, you got to get out there and prove it. But off the hoof, and I said this yesterday on the podcast, there's not a position group that Faith or I went to this week where I go, that's going to be a problem for us, just from an eye test standpoint. They got the athletes in the positions. The secondary looks great. The wide receivers are a no-brainer. Auburn's just got to be able to go out and put it together.
Got to have quarterback play. That's been the big question mark, and I'll roll over and bring you in, Luke, on Alabama and start with that. Doesn't feel like there's any question on who the quarterback's going to be at Alabama, even though there was some talk last year on who's going to take over from Milroy. Milroy. Yeah,
Milroy,
you're going to say
like
that. Yeah. Ty Simpson, though, feels like he has taken the reins. A lot of impressive throws I've seen from him so far in practice. Just talk about quarterback play and then overall getting started here in the fall.
Yeah, I think Ty Simpson's been looking pretty good, but I mean, right now they're just throwing against air. They're throwing against a staffer. And he throws a pretty ball. It looks on target, but again, it's against nothing right now. So, I mean, I try not to glean too much from what we've seen because they hadn't even put on full pads yet. So, I'm more of a Ty Simpson believer than most, because this guy was also a 5-star. If we're going to put a bunch of weight on what you were as a recruit, he was a 5-star. He's a son of a coach. His coach went on or was interviewed by BOL recently, and he talked about how, look, Ty is getting up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to the facility to watch tape. He said, I know this because I'm a coach and I'm up at 5. And so I call him on the way and we talk about, what we're going to do that day. He said he goes to bed at 9. He's not a partier. He's sort of a, take it easy kind of guy. My kind of guy, actually. I mean, to go to bed at 9, wake up at 5, I'm down with Ty Simpson right there. But so the receiver room, I feel very strong about it. I mean, Ryan Williams, wouldn't trade him for anybody. Then you got Jeremy Bernard, very good player, knows the system well. Isaiah Horton comes in from Miami. He transfers in, big, long, tall guy, got some speed, played big Power 4 conference football, so that's a positive. Then you got Rico Scott and Lots Brooks and some guys that are new faces, or Jalen Hill, who's been rehabbing a knee for a while. Again, you hear great reports, but until I see somebody make something happen on the field, I try not to buy into too much hype. I try to go, okay, let's just see what they can do. But I'm like Brett. I mean, I look out there and I see guys like a Jeremiah Beeman, who's just an absolute monster, or Jordan Renaud, number 11, and they've looked like they've just added all this good weight. And again, you see it every year, and every year, if you go to just anybody's practice anywhere in the country, nobody comes back and goes, everybody looks fat. No, nobody does that. Everybody goes, man, they look good this year. And so what I've learned to do is go, okay, I can be happy that everybody looks like they're in shape, but I'm also going to have to tamp down any enthusiasm until somebody does something on the field that makes me realize they can play on game day. And even if they're good in practice, even if they're good in a scrimmage where all the lights are on for the scrimmage, great. But when you get out there in front of 95,000 people in the SEC, it's a little bit different. When you get out there, like Alabama's going to do at 2:30 in Doak Campbell Stadium, and it's going to be an absolute swamp. I did a crossover episode of Locked On with the FSU guy yesterday, and I said, by the way, I won't reveal any secret, but he's not. I don't know if he's truly an FSU fan, but he said, I said, are you going to the game? He said, you're out of your mind. He said, why would I go to that? It's going to be 10,000 degrees, 2:30 in the afternoon. And he said, why are you going? I said, well, yeah, I don't know if I am anymore, but
thanks for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. What do you work for the Chamber, huh? And so, but I'm going anyway. I said, I love to go to road games. I'd rather go to the road games than home games. Everybody can win a home game. I want to go see some dejected faces on the road, as long as they're not mine. But anyway, so what I'm saying is I want to see. I mean, I'm just like Brett. You go there and you get all these. Man, he's so big, he's so strong. And then you get him in the game, and they're like, well, oh, nobody told me he couldn't catch. I just was out there watching him do some old Schwarzenegger stuff. Why didn't y'all tell me he didn't even know what football was? He had his helmet on backwards. So, I like to be a little more patient and see somebody do something in a game before I buy in too terribly much.
Brett, Luke brought it up. I guess when we started the show, it's August 1 yesterday. Where's all the flips for Auburn? So that's the transition I'll make right here. Thoughts on Auburn?
It's already the
recruiting?
second.
Yeah, thoughts on Auburn recruiting. Thoughts as we move forward. Is Auburn still where, around in the 70s?
Yeah, like
In
high
recruiting
60,
rankings?
something like that. I do think obviously we all felt this way, and we kept hearing August 1st, because you're supposed to be able to see what the deals are on paper that everybody. Now, again, who's out there publishing all that? Is there some website that's got a list of everybody's deals? I mean, all of this is just silly to me. And so I think you put your nose down and you do what you always have done. And here's the beautiful thing. And again, we've made a lot out of this, but Auburn needs to win football games, first of all, in this season. And I think the recruiting will take care of itself. Auburn's not going to sign as big a class this year. They're just not. They may sign 20 guys because they've had to sign some bigger classes the last 2 years. What Auburn's got to do with these next 9 guys is they got to be really picky. And with the transfer portal out there and with a couple of guys on tap that, Anthony Davis announces today, I don't think he'll choose Auburn, but Auburn's
He's going to Ole Miss, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But we'll see how it all plays out. But Braylon Womack and Jace Matthews are 2 legit guys. I think Auburn has an inside track on. They're both from Mississippi. I know Braylon Womack is – it's going to be hard to pull away from Ohio State, but he's got, his sister plays softball at Auburn. He's been at Auburn a bunch. I would not be shocked if he chooses Auburn. And Jace Matthews, Rivals has him as the number 2 receiver in the country. You can say whatever you want to say. He's a great receiver, and I know Auburn would have loved to have had Cedarian Morgan. Didn't get him, but they still have a chance at Jace Matthews, and I think he's got a good relationship with Deuce Knight and all that, blah, 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 all that stuff. With that being said, I think Auburn could have a massive boost if they pick those 2 guys up here this month. And they've got their eyes on a couple other guys. I think Auburn's going to be selective. And then just like you've said, Randy, at the end of the day, if they might get a flip or 2, but they're going to have money to go to the transfer portal. And Auburn's done a really good job the last 2 years. I mean, they went out and got KLS last year, and you see what he's doing and in the pros. And we saw what he did last year at Auburn. They got Eric Singleton and Xavier Chaplin this year, along with several other guys that I think are going to be major contributors. Caleb Wheaton being one of them that we didn't even talk about at linebacker coming from Maryland. I think he's going to be a guy that we see a lot of this year. But at the end of the day, Auburn's going to be able to go out and get 4 or 5 guys out of the portal to fill their class. And if that being said, I don't know where they finish, but I think they could get up there around 20 to 25. And, to follow up, the classes they've had, if Auburn has a really good season, I think Auburn will be sitting in good shape. But they do have to close on some of these guys. We can't come back at the end of the month and not have gotten either one of those guys, Braylon Womack or Jace Matthews.
Luke, before we go over to Alabama, just sticking with Auburn, I've tried to spin it in my mind that it's okay. If you finish with a 15 to 20 class, but you have a lot of cash sitting on the sideline to go and let's just say a Cam Ward 2 years ago is open. I'm not saying Auburn needs a quarterback, but you get where I'm going with this. Or Mateer is open from Washington State at Oklahoma. You got the cash sitting on the sideline to go and get somebody that is an Eric Singleton that we hope this year. And, it's a new day and age. If you didn't go get them in the high school ranks, you may get a few transfers in the past, but you couldn't count on that. But now if you got the cash, you need a right tackle or a left tackle or a big-time center when Connor Lew's gone, you got the cash sitting over there to go get somebody because I'm 99% certain Eric Singleton's going to have a big year for Auburn this year. I can't say the same for some of the high school guys we've gotten over the last few years. So it is a different thought process is going into now. Just your thoughts, maybe put your Auburn hat on. I know that you can't do that, but if you were an Auburn fan, if you were a fan of a program like Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, I'm not saying we're at Mississippi State, but trying to build something up where we haven't been there consistently over the last decade, your thoughts on recruiting right now?
I think it's going okay. It's good. It's better than people want to give it credit for. I think it's easy to pile on right now. But Brett's right. If they get Braylon Womack, Jace Matthews, they move up into the 30s probably, and then they probably get a couple other guys. Now I don't know that they'll get anybody else nearly on the level of Braylon Womack after that, but because there's not going to be many left, and unless you plan on flipping somebody, and again, I think flips are going to be. I don't know. I said more difficult, but I don't even know what to expect anymore. I really don't, because the rules do change so fast. Who the heck knows? So I think recruiting's going okay. And I think, again, they got some guys they like out of the portal lot here. Everybody liked Eric Singleton. And then he's banking on Jackson Arnold. And, Jackson Arnold has a good background. He was a 5-star kid. It didn't work out at Oklahoma for whatever reason. Who knows if it'll work out at Auburn or not? We just don't know. I mean, you can say, again, like Ty Simpson, hey, he throws a pretty ball, does all this, but, we've all seen him play. And he was benched for a reason. It wasn't like he was benched because he was hurt. So I think a lot of it comes down to that. In terms of Auburn's recruiting this year, look, it's especially when you're judged against Georgia and Texas and Alabama and LSU. It's like, well, nobody else has to deal with all that. That's a lot of big boys right there. Those 4 teams could end up 1, 2, 3, 4 in the recruiting rankings. So, I just don't. It's hard to judge against those. And I didn't even throw in Tennessee or Texas A&M, who are also spending money hand over fist. And so it's the SEC. It's just the way it is. It's just tough. And I do want to add one thing that's not exactly on the same realm of what we're talking about, but Justin Clayton side texted all of us about, hey, Auburn played Clemson 100 times. Let's not get too hyperbolic here, Justin. You played Clemson back last in 2017. And congratulations. It was a tough series. And I'll bet you this. I bet you Auburn didn't know they were going to be that tough when they scheduled them, or I wouldn't have scheduled them. They played them in 2016, 2017. They played them I looked it up a minute ago, played them in 11, 12, and 10, I think, and then also in 07. So it hadn't been nearly as many times as you think. And he said, well, I also played Penn State. Yep, you played one good Penn State team at home. You got your brains beat in. The first Penn State team you played went 7-6. So, again, I'm just saying that if you ask me, Auburn should aim higher than Baylor. It's more of a shot at Baylor than it is at Auburn. I really just believe that. I think that the SEC has to – there's a rule now that the SEC has to play a 9th team from the Power 4 conferences or Notre Dame or whatever. And I think it should be somebody that makes college football more interesting. Auburn-Baylor on a Friday night is weird. It's just kind of weird. And I think Auburn should save that game for the Mississippi States of the world. That's what I think.
I will say playing Clemson that many times over that stretch, that's a pretty good amount of times for one opponent.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
And again, I think up until
we were all tired of y'all playing Clemson. We all.
That's what I'm saying. We played them. We played them a bunch. So I think that's kind of what he was referring to. Now, again, I don't look at Baylor as some daunting task. You're going on the road to play a formidable opponent, and at some point in time, you got to decide if you're going to be a big boy again and compete. So you got to go out there and prove it.
Well, and then Brett,
forever. So
next year Auburn's got Baylor. I just looked it up. In 27, they've got Missouri State and Middle Tennessee. They don't have anybody else yet. And then in 28, they've got North Alabama. That's it. So
I want to go to
I like it, Luke. I like it.
I know. Randy wants North Alabama, West Alabama, South Alabama. You want the entire compass of
Old
Alabama.
Dominion, all the ones y'all brought up earlier. That's the ones I want.
Let me go through to kind of go back to a point we had earlier in the program about the top 10, 12 guys in the state. This looks so much different than it probably has in a long time for all of us. Alabama obviously got Cedarian Morgan, but Tank goes to Oregon. Landon Duckworth goes to South Carolina. Rodney Cleveland to Texas. Zion Gibson to Alabama. Xavier Crowell to Alabama. Then Jaquez Wilkes, Hezekiah Harris to Auburn. Then you got Emmanuel Ruffin, who is not committed anywhere right now, but then Marquez Daniel to Florida. Kean Chapman to North Carolina. Dylan Purter to LSU. J.J. Bush to Arkansas. Shadarius Tootle to Georgia. That's the top 15 guys right there. And how many different schools did I name? And there's one guy uncommitted right now. Auburn's got 2, Alabama's got 3. And it is just crazy to look at and this tells the tale of what we've all been talking about. Just because you grew up a fan, just because you lived in this state, doesn't mean that's where you're going anymore. I mean, there's proof right there. If Emmanuel Ruffin doesn't pick Alabama, I don't think Auburn's even on his list. If he doesn't pick Alabama,
Alabama's not recruiting him.
Okay, well then he ain't going to. He's not going to be in state either. So that's going to give Alabama 3 guys: Zion Gibson, Xavier Crowell, and Sadarian Morgan. And Auburn's going to get Hezekiah Harris and Jaquez Wills. The rest of them going somewhere else.
Well, Luke, here's the question: how many did Alabama actually offer out of that 15? Like they really wanted out of that 15?
The ones they got, obviously. I don't think Alabama. Now, Alabama did have a commitment from Bodney Cleveland at one time, but once he decommitted, and again, this is just my theory. This staff seems to have the approach of, unless you're Ryan Williams, hey, if you're going to decommit, thanks for shopping. See you later. And not like in a bad way, because you don't want to burn bridges. You don't know. Bodney Cleveland may go to Texas, hate it, call Alabama and say, please, can I come back? He might do that.
But Alabama would have liked to have had him. This is the point I'm making.
I think they would have they would have certainly kept him on the list.
So keep him.
And then Tank Jones, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you still think this class is better than last year's?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's any doubt.
Well, Alabama didn't offer Landon Duckworth, did they?
Because that is a situational thing.
But he's the number 3 player.
It's a situational thing financially too. Landon Duckworth, I talked about this on the show. Landon Duckworth's going to command more money than what the other 2 Alabama quarterbacks are commanding that are committed. And when you sign Keelan Russell 1 year, the number 1 quarterback in the country, then you're not going to be able to sign a guy who some people think is a top 40 player in the country and Landon Duckworth. It's just not going to work that way unless you got Texas budget.
Auburn, Brett. Probably
no doubt. I'm just saying that. Yeah, I mean, comparable. I mean, I know we talked about this probably a month ago, and I don't know how it plays out, but I mean, he's just more valuable for South Carolina. No, I get 100%. I totally get that.
Like I'm not trading Deuce Knight for him.
No,
Landon Duckworth.
That's not where I was going. Yeah, that's not where I'm going with it. I still don't think, and we'll see. Time will tell. I don't see and I'm not saying this just because they're at Auburn. I don't see a Jared Smith or new boy Fagans or anybody. I mean, look, I know Xavier Crowell is a great running back. I think both of us would love to have had him. But I go down, Emmanuel Ruffin, not going to be offered by Alabama. Auburn's not on his list. Auburn not even interested.
Before you get off of him, I get the sense there's something else behind the scenes there.
Probably.
And I don't know. Honestly, the reason I say that is because I was like, I've never even heard Alabama mentioned with him. By the way, that's 24/7. Nobody else has him that high except them. And that, again, that may be a behind the scenes thing.
And he moved up 3 spots since
I know.
He wasn't even in the top 10. So but my point is, I mean, like even Shadarius Tootle, who I think Auburn really wanted, is down at 14. And then so I don't know. We'll see. I just think, and again, it's not because Auburn got 7 of those guys last year. I don't look at this, and I think the ones Alabama got, obviously, like you said, Luke, are the ones you wanted. You go out, I don't know a ton about
Tank Jones.
Yeah, and except Tank Jones, and Auburn wanted him too. I mean, let's be honest about it. And Auburn really wanted Bodney Cleveland, and I thought Auburn was probably going to get Bodney Cleveland after we left that visit, and Faith had that interview with him, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it all.
But Brett, I'll say this: Alabama didn't pursue a lot of those guys last year either. They just didn't. I mean, Auburn people like to think they did. They didn't. They didn't really go after. You talk about Jared. They didn't go after him that much. They just didn't. They didn't think he was a good scheme fit. Maybe it's wrong, but they didn't. And I love to look at. I went back and looked at the top players in Alabama. You want to do something fun. You want to go down a rabbit hole. Go down and Brandy, you bring something up. I'm going to pull these up from a year ago. Jimmy and I did this. I pulled up the guys like Jeremiah Alexander's class where Alabama just dominated in state. And then we thought we had all these dudes. Barely any of them panned out. In fact, the only one that panned out was somebody like ranked number 12. And it's crazy. So it doesn't matter. You got it. That's why last year I wasn't worried at all that Alabama.
Right.
Everybody said, well, you got dominated last year. I was like, no, we had the number 3 class. We're good. We're fine. We got the number one quarterback in the country. It's all good. Now, if somebody wants to say they dominated Alabama, go for it. But we didn't pursue them as much. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Now, I think on the same token, celebrate it if you want to. I'm just saying, don't expect me to be upset about it.
Alabama's got a guy from, is it Muscle Shoals, the linebacker? Is that right? Is he committed?
No, you're talking about Zay. Oh God, I too
He's
early.
an edge rusher. He's an edge rusher.
Yeah, he's from Zay. He's from. You're talking about the
Kamari Johnson is his name.
Who?
Kamari
Johnson.
Yeah.
Kamari Johnson's rated pretty highly by other sites other than 24/7. He's sort of the opposite of Ruffin.
Gotcha. I'm just looking down the list, like Keenan Britt, who is the brother of KJ Britt that's at Oxford. He's the 20th guy on the list. He's going to South Carolina. Just keep going down the list. Corey Barber's at 16. Randy, he's committed to Ole Miss. There's a lot of times, Luke, like you said, you go back to this list, and there's guys between 11 and 20 that had better careers in college than some of the guys, from 1 to 9, 1 to 10.
Well, I'll tell you this, Corey Barber may be the best high school player on that list. I mean, that's how good he was.
You're talking about
the Spain Park.
Spain Park at Charlton.
Yeah, but he transferred to somewhere.
Back to Clay Charlton, which is where he was from. But he's amazing. And that's a perfect fit for him at Ole Miss, Brett.
He
looks like a receiver that Lane Kiffin would make him to a star.
I found it. I want y'all to hear this. This is for everybody who loves state of Alabama. We do too. This is not a shot at him. I'm just telling you, these are facts. What I'm laying out here. This is from 24/7 too, so we can keep it all equal. In 2022, the Alabama top. I'll go the top 12 or 10, whatever I get to. Number 1 was Jeremiah Alexander. He's transferred to Clemson. Number 2 was Curtis Perry. I can't remember. Is he transferred to? Where is he? He's transferred somewhere.
Yep.
Number 3 is Emmanuel Henderson, also transferred, maybe to Vandy. Number 4 is Kobe Prentice, who's transferred to Baylor. By the way, Alabama signed all 4 of them.
Can I have a disclaimer? We weren't in on any of them because our coach didn't know how to get out on the road.
It wouldn't have made him any better, though.
He didn't know. He had no idea you had to actually go out and talk to people. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Shamar James, who's in the NFL now, I think he went to Florida. And in fact, Jimmy told me this the other day. He said he knew this. He said that year, Nick Saban thought Shamar James was the best player in the class, and Alabama was dying to get him. Florida just got it. And he's the only one that's in the NFL, I think. Then there's Traquan Fagans. He transferred about 3 times. Justice Finkley, I'm pretty sure he's transferred. I'm not even sure where he is now. Caden Story, he's transferred. I don't know if he's still at Clemson or not, actually. Robert Woodyard, God almighty, he was in the 2022 class. I think he's a redshirt sophomore for y'all. Is that right?
No, he's starting. Yeah, he'll be starting this year.
But I'm saying redshirt sophomore?
I think so.
It feels like he's been here a minute. J.Q. Hardaway, who I don't know anything about. Antonio Kite, who's been at Bama and Auburn. T.J. Daughtery, whose name I hadn't heard. DeAndre Coleman, whose name I hadn't heard. Zach Pyron, who was at Georgia Tech. I'm not sure where he is now. E.J. Harris.
Maybe Brian Harsin was the smartest guy in the room. He knew all these guys weren't.
I mean, I've been looking down this thing trying to find Tanner Bailey, Powell Gordon. You remember Auburn signed him? I mean, yes. I'm like, where? Just because you signed, Alabama kicked butt in state that year.
Hey,
not one of them panned out.
I'll take it even further. We went back, Randy. I did it for Auburn over like 6 years, didn't I? Our whole signing classes, and how many actually were still either on the roster or actually had ever contributed at all. And I went back like 7 years, and I did that, and it's like eye-opening, man. And you're like, good God, how do we even have a team? I'm like, 4 guys out of that class did anything. So, yeah, that just shows you.
Luke, that is the best argument that you could possibly have for all of the arguments you had last year on that topic. I saw you not only on our shows, but a ton of other shows that love to bring you on and love to, to throw darts at you for saying that I'm not overly worried about recruiting the state of Alabama. You can't make a better argument than that. And I bet if you keep going down the list, you're going to have other classes that are going to look a lot like it. So,
hey, how about I go to 2021? Kool-Aid McKinstry. Okay, home run, knocked it out of the park. Deontay Lawson, pretty good, if we're not for an injury, he's in the NFL draft this year. But then you get to Scooby Williams, Armani Goodwin, Lee Hunter, who was at Auburn. He's not Central Florida. And then he just transferred to Texas Tech, I think. Kamari Laster at Georgia. I think he might be in the NFL. He might be okay. Ian Jackson, don't know, from Prattville, don't know where he is. Rod Orr, don't know. He was signed at Florida State, no idea. Harrison Wallace, who was at Penn State, and there was talk he was going to transfer somewhere, but I don't know that he did. Chris Lewis, who I think was pretty good at Kentucky, but I don't really remember him. Jordan Mosley at Northwestern. I mean, I'm looking at Anquan Barnes and Juwan Gaston, Bama and Auburn, respectively. Tim Keenan. Now, Tim Keenan was number 22 on this list. He's still at Alabama. He's going to start, and he is incredibly solid. And I would consider that a win. But at the same time, he ain't Jonathan Allen. You know. So my point was always go get the best players. I don't care where they are. If they're from Alabama, wonderful. I love it. That means I got to see them. But if they're from Texas, go get them because that's how you're going to win ball games. If they're from California,
out of those two classes, maybe two
or three
out of the top 10.
Yeah,
I mean that gives you a percentage of how many misses you're going to have there, and we get caught up. You know, I know as Auburn fans last year, we were thrilled to get, and we deserve to be thrilled because we haven't been able to win in-state battles in quite some time. But it still doesn't mean that's going to work out for you on the field.
And it don't mean that they're going to work out from anywhere. I mean, like I said, you can go down the whole roster and you can go look at guys that you get from other places. I mean, it's a natural attrition. But I think, you know, from an Auburn standpoint, over time, historically, you got to do well in your home state, and you got to do well in Georgia, and you got to do well in Mississippi, and you got to do those kind of things. And because it's always been a blueprint for success. Now, again, like you said, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean that all of them pan out or even a majority of them pan out. But if you can get top quality players from your state, you're gonna go after those guys. And I think again, it's all about fit too. You know, does that player fit what you need? If you've already got 3 quarterbacks in your quarterback room, you're not gonna go spend a ton of money on a guy just because he's the top guy in the state that year. You know that you've got to be able to manage your roster. And you can, like Jason said, you can go spend $18 million on one guy if you want to do it, but you ain't got no money to go get anybody else at that point. So it's a crapshoot. Recruiting is a crapshoot. There's no doubt. There's no exact science to any of it. I think at the end of the day, you go out and you try to get the best players in the best scenarios for you. And you may have to go recruit a bunch of offensive linemen one year, and the next year you may have to go get a boatload of linebackers or whatever. You got to be able to fill the hole. I think that's where Gus Malzahn's recruiting rankings were a little deceptive. He was always a top 20, even maybe top 10-ish guy recruiting, but he'd go get a boatload of guys and in one position and was deficient on the lines of scrimmage. And it's like, well, crap. Okay, yeah, you had a top 12 class. Well, you got 0 offensive linemen this year or last year. So now what are you doing? And so that can be deceiving. You can get a bunch of high star ranked guys, but if you're not filling needs and you're not pulling in some deficiencies, you're not going to be any good.
Well, the other side of it is you can be a great recruiter. Gus Malzahn, I wouldn't say he was a great recruiter. He's good. But when you have Georgia and Alabama and LSU and Texas A&M on your schedule every year, and they all recruit above you, and let's say you win one of them, but you lose the other 3, and then you slip up and lose to somebody else, all of a sudden everybody's like, well, you stink. Well, he's like, if I had this exact same signing class and I were in the ACC, I'd lose 1 game a year. That's the thing about being in the SEC that people forget.
Right.
Like if Alabama could have the number 7 class in the country this year, and it could be a small class and the individual average could be just crazy good, but they may finish 4th in the SEC because it's nuts. That's what bothers me so bad about all these Big Ten people trying to get their shots in. I'm like, do you know how every SEC coach here would kick another coach in the crotch to be able to go to and play Indiana's schedule anytime. If any SEC, if Auburn had Indiana's schedule last year, Auburn wins 8 or 9 games. There's no question about it. If Vanderbilt had Indiana's schedule last year, they win 8 or 9 games. I mean, they played a sack of grits. They played one ranked team in the whole 12-game thing they had. It's terrible. And
Yeah,
so
I think I definitely think
not the same. It's not apples to oranges. That's what's so frustrating to me.
Well, I mean, is that what we really want to try to do? And we're, by the way, a little note, we are up for TV now. So the last 45 minutes.
Y'all get on in for these last 6-7 minutes.
Exactly. But that's not what we're looking for. And we're not looking for, let's soon go out and get the easiest schedule and sneak into playoffs. It's if you lose 3 games in a tough conference, you're more battle tested and you're more of a formidable opponent to go into a 12-team playoff, and you deserve a better chance than somebody, like you said, to use the term you used, Luke, that played a sack of grits. I don't think anybody agreed that Indiana should have been in the playoffs last year. I don't give a damn if they were 11-1. I mean, when you look down their schedule, they played one team, and the one team they played blew their brains out. So, I mean, it's like that. Okay, well, you won 11 other games. Well, congratulations. Who'd you beat? You know, you didn't go play. And I know Ole Miss screwed themselves. I know Ole Miss shouldn't have lost to Kentucky.
And South Carolina.
If they hadn't lost to Kentucky, they'd have been in the playoffs. They'd have been 10-2, even with a loss to Florida. But they laid a couple of eggs, and it is what it is. But I think it's unfair to judge SEC teams with 9-3 records against teams in the Big Ten or the ACC that have 11-1 records. They don't play the same schedule. I don't care who the heck you are. You look like an idiot if you try to defend that argument.
Brett, let's spin it back over to a conversation that you started in the first hour and kind of close this thing out with the last 45 minutes. I wanted to start with a little spotlight that you'll have a podcast popping on at 10 o'clock with Tommy Tuberville yesterday. And there's a lot of not just his thoughts on it, but overall thoughts on the state of college football and some of the legislation that's at least being discussed. Maybe hit on some of the talk that you had, and let's have a little back and forth on some of the things he said yesterday.
Yeah, excited to have that come out here at 10 o'clock, and glad that he was able to take some time out. He literally had just walked off the Senate floor in a vote, and again, been trying to work this out with him for about a month, and found some time. You know, again, I think Coach Tuberville, and he mentioned it on the podcast, that he's not a politician, that he is, you know, he felt the need to go to Washington, try to make a difference with what President Trump has been doing. And that's kind of what led him to where he is. And then, of course, with the Title IX, I'll start there. He's disgusted, and you'll see him. He doesn't hold back in this, and he never has. I've known him for a long time. He doesn't hold back, and it's, to me, what I like most about him, because I see a lot of me and him, because y'all know I don't hold back either. And the thing is that the fact that you wake up and you think any part of you, if you're saying that a man should be playing and competing in a woman's sport, I'm sorry. I mean, you can not like me anymore. You don't have to watch anything I do. I can't tell you how much I disagree with that and how sickening I think that is. You know, the three of us have daughters. It's disgusting to think that, you know, somebody is going into a female locker room and trying to make that right. To me, that tells me all I need to know about our society. And, you know, Coach Tuberville had a bill that would have made that right, and it got shot down. And so he's trying to do some things along with other people to try to make common sense things back into the reality of life. And, you know, there's a thing going on with Brooke Slusher over at San Jose State, where she basically uncovered a plot for a transgender teammate to try to harm her during the season, because she, first of all, was uncomfortable with him being on the team, and she spoke out about it. And so that player, along with a couple others, had plotted to try to hurt her in a match. And so that there's a lawsuit going on there. I know Coach Tuberville's involved in that, along with President Trump. He's ordered an investigation, so he talks about that as well, Randy. But he's concerned about the Olympic sports and where a lot of the concerns you voiced on this show, that the NIL, this is not equitable. He talks about that when he coached and how Title IX made sure that if you did it for the guys, you did it for the girls, facility-wise, money-wise, and all that. And all this is completely out of control right now. And I think the problem is he voiced his displeasure with Charlie Baker with the NCAA. He said he's very disappointed that the NCAA has chosen to fold tent and just go away instead of fight some of this stuff. He said when they get challenged, they just go away. And he said that's kind of why we're in the situation we're in. So he had a lot to say about all of that. And so I want everybody to go check that out at 10 o'clock.
Well, the one thing, I think the first topic you brought up, I really think that's a 90-10 topic. So I won't even spend any time to discuss that. I agree with you. You know where I stand on that.
Right. I think it's a 99-1. I don't think there's 10% of people who truly believe that you should have a guy out there. And again, if that's your lifestyle, okay, I won't say, look, we probably ain't hanging out, but I mean, yeah, okay, no. Go do your thing. But you can't play sports with females. It's nuts. I mean, if the worst NBA player went on a WNBA team right now, he'd be the best player in the league by a gazillion yards. So why is this a thing? Why
it's not equitable?
It's such a dumb argument that like it takes away from everything else. That if those people who do side with that, if they have anything sane to say, you automatically discredit it because they believe in this.
I want to tell y'all this, and you can go watch it too. And I thought it was great. He says, look, I work with colleagues on the other side of the aisle that have daughters. And he said, I've looked at them in the face and go, what are you doing? Yeah. Are you that strong with your ideology in this side of the fence that you're willing to sacrifice and sell your own family out? He said, do you actually agree with that? Would you allow your daughter into that situation? He said, I asked him point blank. And he said, I would hope that I would never be in a position where I let my ideologies overwhelm me to the point that I sacrifice what I believe truly in my heart. And again, he says, when you got people that sit up here, leaders of our country, so to say, sit up here and refuse to say there's a clear definition of what a man and a woman is, you got more problems than you can shake a stick at. He said, this is what we battle up here in Washington. He said, this is the kind of stuff that we have to deal with. He said that we should be common sense, everyday things that we just move forward from. He said, we can't get past it because people got agendas up here.
Now the
Randy,
one topic, yeah.
I know you want to go, and I'm sorry, but to me, it's like this. See, this is why we can't have fast trials. We can't have expeditious trials. We can't have good government because it gets bogged down with a bunch of morons who throw out their frivolous lawsuits, trying to just jam up stuff, hoping that they throw something against the wall and it sticks. And in government, if you want to try and get something going, you just create all this confusion. You say, well, man and woman is just something we invented. No, it's pretty easy. Both of you get naked and let's see which one you are. That's how you tell. It's that easy. You can tell probably by an Adam's apple. But so it's so dumb that we spend any time on this. It's so wasteful is that we spend any time on this that it's just shocking to me that we still have to do it.
Let's go to break. We got to get a commercial break in, believe it or not. Thanks to Ryan for being there. I do want to send a note out there to everybody that Russ was in a car accident on the way this morning.
Oh, God.
He did not arrive. So hopefully we're going to try to – he was being taken to the hospital by ambulance. So our thoughts and prayers with him. So that's why we were not on TV. So I just did want to say that so everybody can say a prayer for Russ out there that he's okay. All right, we're going to take a break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
Is he okay, Brett?
What Ryan is saying is he said they're just taking him by ambulance, so they think he will be fine, but
okay,
they're definitely taking him to the hospital. So
what happened? Do you know?
Don't know. Just was in a car accident this morning, so on the way to the station.
There's some people that when they're not there 45 minutes ahead of time, you better start checking up.
Well, that's kind of what I was telling you.
Yeah,
I sent him messages and he didn't respond. I knew something was wrong. So I look, guys, I'm with y'all. I mean, this thing about the common sense things that we deal with.
Well, and go when we go back, because, I think everybody agrees with that topic. The thing that's not getting discussed, though, is the Title IX on the track and field and other sports. I mean, it's not.
He's right about this Olympics, Randy. I mean,
it's going to be it's going to be all of them, though, Brett. I mean, they're not money generating sports. They're not going to make money. And if you take the bell cow out of there and you take college football away and you allow college football with those federal funds to take up all the money, and discretionary funds can go towards the ones that bring the money in. Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm the same boat all of you are in, but I don't understand how you still have Title IX legislation that hasn't gone away, and this is not being discussed more than it is. I mean, the Riley Gaines topics everybody agrees with that. I don't know a human in my life that doesn't agree. I don't know anybody that thinks that the three of us at 18 years old that I need to be going and competing in a high school softball game. I mean, it makes no sense, like 0 sense. And so I agree with that. But the other topic's not being brought up. Did he talk about it much, Brett?
Yeah, he does. He talks about it.
Is there anything being done?
Well, he tried to have that bill out there, but with the Ray college athletics and the uncertainty of the way everything is right now, nobody knows what to do.
Hey, I'm probably going to have to head after this segment, just letting y'all know, because we got to go pick up Sela's cousin. So it's always
Brett, we'll go, since the first hour we did, we'll go to your media days in Benjamin Russell to close it out. When Luke goes off.
Okay.
When is media day? Is that already happened for me?
It happened this week.
Yeah. No, you're talking about AHSA at the Montgomery office.
That's coming up the week of the game.
Yeah.
Who do we play first, Brett?
Opelika.
And that's on a Friday?
It's on Friday. It's in Opelika, the 22nd.
So that's the same day as the kickoff classic or whatever.
Yeah.
It is. Yes.
All right. So Caleb and I are calling that one. I can put that on my computer and watch it, I guess.
Right.
You're thinking the next Thursday, Brett. Central Clay's on Thursday.
Yeah, correct.
With Auburn playing on Friday.
Right.
And I'm going to the beach that weekend, but I don't know if we're leaving Thursday or Friday. If we leave Friday, I'm going to go to it because I'd like to see that one.
Yeah. Oh, we got 30 seconds.
You're going to, aren't you going to Baylor?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to Baylor, Oklahoma.
But you're going to be late for your flight. You better get on it.
Well, we're leaving this.
Takes an active time to get over there.
Sand in the eyes, that don't even describe what's coming up for me in the next few weeks.
You're going to have to take 2 crop dusters, a hot air balloon, and a donkey to get over there.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill, Sunshine Eating and Air. I mean, somewhere along the way, I feel like I may end up in a crop duster. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. How about that?
Before we get back to sports, maybe this isn't going to be funny the way I tell it, but yesterday, for some reason, my father, who has, a nice car and pretty low to the ground, he said, "Luke, I want you to go with me to get my car washed," because he doesn't like to go through the car wash by himself because he's 79 and it's just sort of a pain. And I said, "Nope, I want you to drive it. You're going to learn, and I'll sit in the thing. You're going to sit. You're 79. It's time you learned how to go through a car wash." So we went over there to Tidal Wave or whatever it is, and because he said, and I'm talking about confused from the minute we turned left. He said, "I don't know how to get there." I said, "Well, turn left over to Chick-fil-A." He said, "Well, there's Chick-fil-A. Where's the?" I said, "Just turn left. We're going to go on up here a little bit. Turn left again." He said, "Turn left right here. Turn left right here." And he said, "Now where do he just put his hands up?" So now where do I go? I said, "Well, it says enter the car wash right here. We're going to go." We go over there, and there's this one of those little rock like ATM looking things. It had all the controls on it. And he got just far enough away where there's no position his body could get in where he could reach. Because I got long arms, he doesn't have long arms, and he's out the window trying to got it. And he said, they don't take cash, and he was all worried about that. And he said, "Well, it don't matter. I can't touch any of the buttons anyway." I was about to have to get out of the passenger side to walk around and go do all that. I could have probably touched the buttons from my side, just reaching over him, but I didn't want to. I thought that'd be bad. finally, this little girl comes around that works there, and she was nice to me, and she punches all the button. He just said, God dang, I don't know where I'd be if it was you, because there are people behind me. So I guess we just be here all night.
Maybe it wasn't such a good idea for you to let him drive.
It was a 30-minute Seinfeld episode in real time, in real life. The whole thing. We stopped for commercials. It was crazy.
And, you know, somehow you already knew in your head with you going to the car wash with your dad, it was going to end up like that.
Well, I knew, and I also knew I had no chance of it being funny if I drove.
That's right.
It wouldn't be funny to me, because see, what would have happened is he would have yelled at me, well, what was that? You just going to scrape my car up? So I was like, no, you drive. And that way, and I'm talking about it just was.
You should have videoed it, just like the guy sent y'all.
Because I didn't know, like, I had my phone out and I was about to, and I said, dang it, we did it. You know, we got it to where I wanted. I put my phone back up, and that's when he started trying to punch those buttons. He said, I'm going to need a dialing wand to get these things.
Well, I know I sent this to y'all, but you could have done just like you were doing, just what this guy did. I guess it was his granddaddy when they pulled up in the Taco Bell deal, and he said, hey, I need to tell him you want a Baja ha blast. And so the guy gets on there, and he goes, and the lady goes, what do you want? He said, give me a Baja ha blast. And the lady said, what? And then he turns and looks at him. He goes, man, you crazy. You know you did that to me. Like, he filmed it, and everybody's laughing. I'm like, you should have done that yesterday. Everybody would have got a kick.
Well, wait. Okay. Since we're on this now, this can be the whole segment. So Dad had called somebody he was doing some banking with, and had gotten mad at him because he had called, tried to get him, and he couldn't get him. And he went through all this automated stuff, and it just wasn't working. Finally, he left. He got somebody in customer service and just cussed them out and hung up the phone. And so my brother and I thought we'd have a little fun with it. So Austin went in there with Dad and was like, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, I'm just mad at everybody, and I won't tell the name of the bank or whatever." He said, "I just can't believe none of them over there will call me back." Well, I knew the guy he was trying to reach, so I called from my office. Now, my office is here. My dad's office is a couple of offices down. I called from my office to our front desk, had the secretary ring Dad. It says on the caller ID, Robinson Irons calling, and I didn't change my voice. Dad picked up and said, hello. And I said, well, this is Tim Smith with blah, 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 blank. And I understand you've been having a hard time. Thank God you called, Tim. I just can't believe. And again, I didn't change my voice. I've been his son for 52 years. And he said, I said, well, sir, before we continue, I'm going to need to ask you a few security questions so that I may access your banking records. He said, that's totally understandable. And I said, what's your wife's maiden name? And he said it, and then he spelled it. And I said, sir, one more security question.
So wrong for this.
What is your shoe size? And he said, he paused. He goes, well, it was a 10.5, but I've lost some weight, so my shoes don't fit anymore. I don't know, Tim. And we just fell out at that point. So
the man's already irate and upset, and you egging him on.
And then Austin just fell out. He was in the office with him, and he figured out. And I said, but it's kind of on him when I called from the same office he was in, and I didn't change my voice.
Still at work every day, Luke. He's not going.
He's still at work. Oh, I give him a lot of credit.
Oh gosh, yes. And look, he's no fool. The funny part is that somebody like that owning multiple businesses, doing all that he does, and but just don't take him to a car wash.
And if he had really, really been mad, we wouldn't have pulled that stunt. But it was worth it to do just then.
Some things are worth it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take another break, Brian, because Luke, do you have to get out?
Yeah, I got to go.
Okay. So, Luke, appreciate you being on this morning, brother. We'll catch up with you next week. Okay. All right, everybody. We'll take another break here for TV. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
We'll just spotlight that. You've got that at 10, maybe a couple of minutes. I don't want to waste a whole segment on that. Then hit some spotlights on. I mean, what did you think of media days, bro? Coaches and stuff.
I thought it was fine.
Any takeaways, though?
Do what now?
Any takeaways? Any teams you think feel like they're better than?
Yeah, I can go through some of that. Yeah, I can go through some of that. You know, for the most part, Let me look at our list.
Maybe talk about the key ones in our area.
I will. I think Tallahassee has a chance to be really good this year. They went to the third round, played Jackson, and were only down by a score in the third quarter against them on the road last year. So they got new quarterback.
LA feels good about it.
Yeah, new quarterback transferred from Houston, Texas, and he looks the part.
Wow.
I was interviewing him, and I was like, I was going back through the season last year, and I was talking to him. He says, "Well, I transferred in, sir, so this is my first year, and I'm so and so from Houston, Texas." I said, "Okay." His dad got hired as an assistant coach at Tuskegee.
Okay.
So they live in Tallahassee, and he said, "Man, great addition to the football team."
Tall kid. I saw him in the middle of the picture.
Yeah, tall kid. Very well spoken. Can tell that, he says he can do it all. I asked him, what he prefers, and he said I can run, and he said I definitely think I'm going to bring a element through the passing game that maybe they haven't had. So I know that Coach O'Neill's done. That guy can coach, man.
Yeah, he can win them. Yeah,
he can. So, let's see who else. Talked to Chad McKelvey again. That's a couple.
What's Chad think?
Thinks are better. Top to bottom,
good.
thinks they're a lot more physical. That was the challenge in all season. The commonality that I heard from most of these coaches, the thing that they had to work on was their physical nature. That they're a lot of these games, and I'll even go to Beulah. Beulah went to I think it was Beulah that made the playoffs for the second time, just for whatever. And then I think Bullitt County had done the same thing. And basically they said the difference was that, they gave out in the fourth quarter in some of those games that they were in. And, they made it a priority to say that ain't going to happen. They're working on their, attrition and, their strength and being able to be able to perform in the fourth quarter when they weren't able to do that this past year. So that was the commonality. We got 30 seconds, and we'll be back for TV.
Make sure you hit Opelika and Ben Russell with that first game.
I definitely will.
Coach Moore feel good about it?
He does. He's concerned about their secondary. He said
Just
that
secondary.
got a lot of.
Boy, they had some wildebeest up there with him, didn't they?
They lost 10 of 11 on defense.
They are massive, though. Those were 4 big humans he brought with him.
Right. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left in the show today. Again, apologize for getting started late on TV. Our thoughts and prayers with Russ, our producer, who was in an accident on the way to the station this morning. So appreciate Ryan getting to the station and getting us on TV this morning. Thanks to all of you out there online that have been with us since the start. Just kind of recapping a little bit of high school media days from this past week. Faith and I were over there for a couple of days and got to see a ton of schools and got to talk to a lot of the ones in our local area. Obviously, Jeremy Phillips at Horseshoe Bend got them to the playoffs last year, had a tough schedule. They played 2 back-to-back state champions at the beginning of the year, and they've got that same schedule this year with Wadley and Reeltown back-to-back. I mean, I don't know that there was another school in the state that had back-to-back 2 different classification state champions in 2 weeks. And so, Jeremy said they learned a lot, from those games. And he said, look, that's a benchmark. When you play the best, you see where you are and how you compare. So, they feel they got a younger team this year, but, Jeremy feels like, from a culture standpoint and a work standpoint that they're going to be in position to do some good things this year. And he said the difference last year is they were able to make some plays in some of those games they'd been losing. They made the plays to win those games against the Sachs team that they opened up with and maybe against some of those other teams, but they are in a very, very tough region And he understands that, but he feels good about their team. That's just kind of an update there. Reeltown, Matt Johnson, they just kind of reload every year. They got their quarterback back, got their best receiver back. Team that had lost the state championship 2 years ago, then come back last year and win it. And I would not be surprised if they aren't right there again, Randy, with a chance to win it. Matt Johnson's a great coach, and he has them really prepared and dialed in every phase of the game.
Yeah, Reeltown's one of the best programs in the state, and right there close by, you got Dayville, and you talked about Chad McKelvey just a touch. It feels like the product that he's going to put out there on the fields a little better this year, a little more physical. That's the thing about Dayville and the classification they play in, and the way that they're going to have to win football games moving forward, especially as the private schools creep into the HSA. When Dayville's good, they out physical teams in that class.
That's right.
It's just a mentality over there. They always have been a hard-nosed, tough-minded, mentally strong group of football players. And, if he can get it back to that, they'll get back to their winning ways. The thing about Tallapoosa County that you and I know, we're going to have skill guys. You're going to have in Dayville the numbers that you need, in Ellick City the numbers that we need to throw at the skill positions to be dynamic enough there. The question mark is, can you play on the lines of scrimmage? And when Dayville's down, the answer is no. When Ben Russell's down, the answer is no. So I think Chad knows that better than anybody. Came through the program when they had a good product like that, and I expect them to do the same now.
Yeah, he stressed that to them. And again, numbers wise, probably aren't where he would like them to be, but I think there's a lot of schools that feel that way. So you take what you get, and you go out there and you do the best you can. But they were hitting their stride coming down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I know they only won 3 games last year, but they were in a lot more of those games coming down the stretch. And they had a Montgomery Academy team that was 11-1 on the ropes. They were the number 1 seed. They had to go there. They ended up losing the game in the last 2 minutes. They had to lead most of the game. And he said, we just weren't able to hold them off long enough. And, to come out, which would have been, if they would have won that game, probably the biggest upset in the playoffs last year. But Montgomery Academy was able to fight back and get that win. But I really expect another year under Chad McKelvey's belt that they will, again, some of those earlier games that they struggled in, you won't see that. And, they play a Reeltown, and he said he really thought they played well last year against Reeltown. But he said, I know when you look back at the score, it didn't show it, but it was, again, one of those deals of a team trying to learn how to finish a game, how to play 4 quarters. So, I think you'll see that out of a Chad McKelvey coach team this year. Another guy that we're all very familiar with who has done one hell of a job is Kyle Caldwell at Elmore County. And, he expects to be even better this year than he was this past year. They was 7-3 this past year in the regular season. And, he knows the competition that they have in that region that they're in and how tough it is. But Kyle's one of the best coaches in the state. I firmly believe that. He's gone to a place where they haven't been perennial winners and made that a perennial winning program. And so, his kids just look the part when he brings them. They're going to be very well coached, and he kind of challenges it. His guys to kind of be about a step above maybe their opponents and where they are as far as scheme and stuff. And he asks a lot of them, especially his quarterback and guys on offense to kind of look at the situation. He said he gives them the leeway once he feels confident that they can make the checks when he gets them in a position for them to, analyze what the situation is on the field, that they ain't got to look at him, that they have enough about them to go out there and make the right call. And so that's how much trust they build, with that quarterback coach, relationship there. But expect Elmore County to be really, really good. Chris White at Hanley, who's been on the staff for 6 or 7 years, as the defensive coordinator for a legend there. And you look at who he's replacing there at Hanley, and again, a new coach, but the same mentality of what they do up there. And Hanley's always got a good program. And, Larry Strain, again, is a Hall of Fame guy. He's not there yet, but, it's the same culture. And you got a guy that's learned under Larry Strain. And, you expect really good things out of them. What about Glenwood last year, Randy? 9-1 in the regular season, actually undefeated, and then they lose that game in the playoffs, and it was a very, very close game. But Ryan Nelson had Glenwood ready to go, man. They moved over from AISA to AHSA. There was no learning curve for them at all.
No, in any sport. They ran away with the baseball state championship, one of the more talented teams, top to bottom in the state of Alabama. And you and I had conversations with people that we trust around the state. And one, Jason Caldwell, that he said, man, you go watch Glenwood play. Have you seen them yet, Randy? I said, no. He said, they throw guys at you on the line of scrimmage that you don't see too often in that classification, just size and strength wise. And it's back to my Dayville comment. You win the lines of scrimmage, you're going to win a lot of football games. And the great teams that we've had in our local area have always been able to do that.
Let's take a break here. It'll be the final break on the show this morning. We appreciate everybody staying with us. Stay tuned. One more segment coming up right after this.
Ben Russell, Opelika, when we come back, Brett.
Okay.
New school, video board.
Yeah, I really like Coach Moore at Opelika. Really nice,
do.
really, really nice guy. I think, he really brags on the rivalry with Ben Russell. He goes, just
it's one they wouldn't like. I mean, they don't want to see it go away. I mean,
no.
And I get it. I understand why. There's just there is a certain point where you go, we may beat them this year. Not saying that we won't.
Yeah, right.
It is just not.
Well, they're going to definitely have the advantage.
Not a matchup that we should not be playing.
Well, they're 7-8. They're full alt 7-8 team now, and I mean they compete against. Their mentality is different. I mean, it's not that our mentality is different and we want to win too. I mean, but you can say, a 4A team can play a 6A team.
And they can every once in a while.
And they can beat you every once in a while, but not consistently. Not if all things are equal. And that's part of it. I mean, so they've moved. Look, their community's grown and they're not coming out of 7A. I don't know what I've heard some rumors. I even had some texts this week, some things being kicked around Central Board again of adding more teams to 7A. I don't know when that will happen. Or if it ever will happen. I know there's some changes coming up in the Super 7. I don't know about that either. We're all entitled to our opinion, but I don't know about 4 days. I mean, if they make that move and go to a longer time, that's fine. But
somebody that does it more than you and I do, but not many people have been to more than.
I would say so.
Over the last, I think it just feels like a stretch to me. It really does. I'll be honest. It feels like more overhead, where it almost feels like overhead's been cut in the last 5 years, even from what. I think of the events that we had around the Super 7 when you and I first started, especially when Tuscaloosa and Auburn first started with that thing, and they were guns blazing. Brett, I think back to some of those banquets and the way some of those things were set up, and it was amazing. It really was amazing to go back and think that actually happened, and
had that in a while.
No, I mean, you just lose the lore. You lose the luster around it when you've had it a while.
No,
and maybe that luster comes back with it going to South Alabama. Look,
we'll see. Hey, we got 5 seconds real quick. We'll come on back.
Ben Russell, Opelika.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. 1 segment left here on the show. It'll be a little bit shorter, so we'll talk about Benjamin Russell and Opelika game coming up in 20 days. Which is kind of wild. got to get ready to go here. Talked to both coaches at media days. Faith interviewed Kirk. I interviewed Coach Moore. Again, both have high expectations. I thought Opelika really overachieved last year in their region, and talked to them at length about their region over there. Talked with Keith Etheridge about it. It's a brutal region, and everybody top to bottom, when the Dothans, the Enterprises, the Phoenix Cities. I mean, every week you've got, Carver in that region now. It's just a brutal region. So, but very good football team, is fundamentally sound, have great athletes, and you got to be able to compete in that region over there. On the flip side, Benjamin Russell, it's going to have a different look. Got a new coach. It's exciting for us to see what Kirk Johnson's going to be able to do. He's 55-2 in his last 4 years in AHSA with 2 state championships down at Montgomery Catholic. And, he said, look, it doesn't matter where I go. He said, I won a state championship in 4A, I won one in 5A. Now I've got my sights set on winning one in 6A. He said, the standard never changes where you go. He said, he had people tell him, once you get to the top, the hardest thing to do is stay on top. And he said, well, I don't want to leave being on top. He said, I don't want to come in and say, well, we can't do this in year one or whatever. I like Coach Johnson's attitude. I think it permeates the team. I don't think he absolutely does not accept excuses from anybody of why they can't do something. And Brian Moore's the same way. I think he had the same mentality in that 7A region over there. Why can't we go win the region? Why can't we go beat Phoenix City? Why can't we be the team that can go on to win? And, I think Opelika for a while had accepted, let's just get that 4th spot, in that region to make the playoffs. He's like, we shouldn't be thinking that way. That's not the way that Opelika football's ever been, and we shouldn't be that way. We should expect to go out and win every time we go on the field. So I think Opelika and Benjamin Russell have 2 phenomenal coaches. 2 proven coaches. Brian Moore was proven in North Alabama with his stint there. And he's an Opelika guy. And then Kirk Johnson, the resume speaks for itself. So I think you're going to have one of the best football games in the state opening weekend right up the road in Opelika on the 22nd.
No, I agree with you. I think the thing that if you're just new to being around Opelika's program, which quite a few of our players are, our coaching staff, I'm not sure that they've coached against Opelika before.
Right.
You got to know the culture that has always been around that program, and that is just mean-spirited physical play. And Brian Moore is the perfect coach for that system. And you can either match that from a physicality standpoint or you can't. And We'll see if Ben Russell can. It's a tough ask. I'll say that. It was a lot less of a tough ask when you and I were in school, Brett, when they were about 150 students in enrollment larger than us, whereas now, what's the difference? You're on the board, 700 to 800 students difference in enrollment.
Yeah,
in the top 3 grades.
Yeah, at least. At least.
It's because Opelika's big 7A now, and even moving into a bigger 7A, and doesn't mean you can't beat them, but it is. But you got to go in there with an expectation of what you're going up against and know what's. I tell you what, you can't ask for 2 better opening week games if you want to get excited about football than Ben Russell's got. Got Opelika to start the season, which is our rival of my lifetime. It kind of got away from us the first part of the 2000s, and we got out of it. Come back from time to time, and we've won a few of those games, but lost more than we've won. And then Central Clay, that has become the true rival in this local area because of the back and forth, the Danny Horn dynamic that goes on there. And that game being on Thursday night in week 2 is going to be, if you can't get the kids up to get ready to play football with those 2 games on the horizon, you don't have much about you. And I know Kirk Johnson does. And I will say this, just so impressed with that coaching staff. So impressed with the way they go about their business, the way that they've come into the community and taken over leadership roles. And went to a camp for the Future Wildcats camp a few weeks ago, Brett. It could not have been handled any better. Ra White was kind of the one that was leading the camp. Kirk,
big addition for us there.
Just gives a lot of assistant coaches the leeway to not sit over there and look at the head coach and wonder what to do. No, I mean, he puts them in positions to lead. And the more that you're around successful people and watch the way that they handle their business, you start understanding why. I mean, it's not a miracle. You know, we had a head coach we had an assistant coach that passed recently, in Gary Powell, and he used to give us a speech every year about winning football games, not a miracle, boys. I mean, you just have to do these certain things better than the opposition, and you can win any game that you're in. And same with leadership, Brett. I've been around some bad leaders, and I've been around some great ones. And the ones that are great, there's a reason. They don't just come and smile better than the person they're competing against. No, they do things from start to finish better. And I think Kirk Johnson's one of those. And it's going to be a great atmosphere. I love Opelika's atmosphere, Brett. I've always said this. If there's not many communities in the state more passionate about high school football than our two right here. Would you agree with that?
No, I totally agree. I got to get out for TV. We'll hang loose for a few more minutes to finish this up, but we appreciate everybody tuning us in around the state. We'll be back with you next Saturday for another edition of the Saturday Sports Countdown. No, but go ahead. Yeah, what were you saying?
New enhancements on their field, new
Right.
surface, all of that. I mean,
Right.
It's going to be a great Friday night. We're talented. We got a lot of new faces.
And it's game one, so you're going to have both teams trying to fill each other out. So.
And when that happens, it comes down to maybe a few key plays, but it's line of scrimmage, man.
It always is.
I'm telling you, it's line of scrimmage when things are tight. If you're getting beat up front, it's going to be difficult. And so, every great team that Danny's had, that you and I had the privilege of calling, just outwilled I mean, we just beat people up on the fronts.
Right.
And but even the great ones that we had during that stretch and some of the others that we've had, when you match up against a team that's got a roster full of big Bo's and Joes, you can try to go in there and talk Braden Pritchard into blocking that big Bo across from him, but at times the matchup's just not as good as you would like. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm looking forward. I tell you what, we've had some matchups with them over the last 15 years I didn't want to watch. I knew going in this wasn't a good one. And why in the hell are they on our schedule and we're putting ourselves through this? I don't feel that way going into this first one.
I don't either. I think we'll be prepared. I think obviously Opelika will be ready. Both know it's a big game. These two coaches don't like to lose, so they ain't conceding anything. So it's going to be fun. And like I said, first couple of weeks around here, it don't get any bigger than what we've got coming up. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, the new Jumbotron at the Sportplex is up now, and there's so much excitement around that. And they're going to continue to enhance things. There's going to be some renovations to the press box and all coming down the line, and some things that'll be happening over the next years. But again, we still have one of the best facilities in the state. And
I don't think I trade with anybody that I've seen.
I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade at all. Just would not.
I've seen almost all of them, and I even see the Buford build that we see the $62 million build over in Georgia, and it is, and it's got a lot of. It's got a lot of enhancements and field house type stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's more modern, but I wouldn't trade with them either. I wouldn't. I mean,
I think we got.
I think you can't replace what we've got from a build out standpoint. We do need to clean it up. I mean, there are some things that make it look.
Oh, yeah.
When did we go into that stadium in 86?
86. Yep.
So, do the math.
Yeah, I mean,
a long time ago.
Can't build next year. To build that stadium in today's world would cost you a lot of money.
Yeah,
a lot of money. It's not an aluminum stadium. I mean, and there's no cut on the new stadiums that are being built for, again, it's because you have to be cost effective, and that's what schools can do now. But brick, mortar, and steel, as big as that stadium is, where it's located, I mean, I don't even want to know what the price tag would be on building that stadium and all the things that go with it now with that field house and all. So it would be a monumental cost. So All right. Well, we're getting ready, man. We'll be back with everybody next week. We've got another busy week coming up. It just going to get busier and busier as we get closer to time for the school to get started. I know a lot of people's school starts back this week, and so everybody will be getting back at it. I know teachers and all reported on Friday. Convocation will be in Alex City Monday to get everything started. I think the kids go back on Wednesday. So here we go. Another school year is upon us. And again, we're excited about all the things that we're doing with our, all of our programming here through the HSA, through our Auburn Blitz programming and all. And, it's going to be I just tell everybody right now watching this will be different for me this fall. Football's on Fridays for me and you, Randy, but Faith and I will be covering Auburn every Saturday. So it's going to be different. I mean, there's a lot of travel involved, a lot of things that we've partnered with businesses and all that are supporting us with that. We're going to have a post-game show following every single Auburn football game. As soon as we walk out of the press conference in the locker room, we will have that live, and we'll get you and Andy and everybody else to jump in with us on those if possible. But I know that we'll, especially on the road, Faith and I'll be doing those shows immediately after the game, and those will be live for people. So it's different, but we've stepped it up a notch, and we're glad to be really a full-fledged part of the Auburn beat writer team now that covers Auburn athletics. Practice every day. We don't get the chance to go to practice every day, but when there's a media window open, we're going to be there, and we're going to give people updates and stuff. So yeah, it's exciting. Going to be a lot of work for us, but we're excited about it. We're up to the task. I can promise you.
It's going to be a busy fall. Looking forward to it. Got Champions Challenge coming up. I guess the same Thursday and Friday that we play Opelika. So
that is right.
19 days away from high school football on that Thursday.
Yes.
And then so 20 days away from us starting on Friday night. And we will have our radio network crew over there to cover that Thursday and Friday game. You just heard Luke and Caleb calling one of them.
Yeah, Luke and Caleb calling one, Caleb and Tommy calling the other one. So exciting. Glad that they'll be on the call of those games. You and I will be on the call of the Opelika game on Friday. Excited to have Wes back again with us. Excited to have Faith on the sideline with us. It's a new element that we really haven't had. We're going to have enhancement to the broadcast all the way around for TV and streaming. I'm going to have multiple camera shoots. We're going to be going and doing a test run on all that this coming up week on Thursday at the Sportplex. And so excited to have all that. Got another intern that will be with us this fall, Sophie Porter from Chilton County. I told her, Randy, she obviously is used to playing Benjamin Russell, but she's been on the other side. I said, you're going to have to put that maroon and gray on this time instead of that orange and blue. So she's like, I don't know what people are going to say about me wearing. I said, they'll get used to it because they know you're working. But glad to have her on board. Yeah, we're excited. Just a lot going on that we're doing, and appreciate all the support out there for our podcast and our YouTube channel. All of you that have subscribed, really, really appreciate y'all. And if you haven't, please go out there and do that. Make sure you hit the like button. It really helps us with our content and all. So now we go enjoy one of our final Saturday before it really just gets hectic, Randy.
Looking forward to it. I'll see you out on the lake.
All right, buddy. See you, buddy.